Welcome back to the Out and Back podcast. This week we had a lot of hot topics to discuss. We talked about London, the craziness of the world record on both the men's and women's side, what it means to see two guys go under 2 hours and three guys to go under that previous record. We kind of tried to make some sense of it with the Boston Marathon results as well. We also got to talk about the 2:05 marathon from Vincent in Toledo, Ohio that I don't think anybody saw coming. And then to finish it up, the episode, we did some listener questions that we gathered up today from our Strava group. If you guys aren't in our Strava group, please go join it. Join our newsletter. Both Rory and I have out new YouTube videos as well, talking all about our Boston Marathon experience, kind of going through the race. So check those out. They'll be linked below in our show notes here on our personal YouTube channel. So enjoy the episode. Welcome back to episode 35 of the Out and Back podcast. We have our good friend here, Chris Striegel from the Life in Stride podcast with us. Chris, how we doing? All of us were in Boston. How's everybody feeling?
Dude, I'm feeling great. I'm honored to be here. I'm not going to lie. I went on Joanna's podcast last week, so to get the Out and Back invite after, I'm feeling like a bit of a celeb right now. 2 podcasts in 1 week, so I'm grateful to be here. Excited to talk London too. So thanks for having me, boys.
I was going to say, Rory just went on Joanna's podcast as well, and then I was supposed to go on it tonight, and I have this, this cough, so I didn't want to do too much. I was coughing all day yesterday, so I texted him yesterday and was like, I think we're going to have to delay it a week. See if I can recover.
He's a great guy, man. Let me tell you something. Dude knows a lot about shoes, so...
He's a ball knower when it comes to shoes for sure. And yeah, I liked his pod and he sent me some merch. And honestly, I love the merch, the mileage merch. Like it's just, who doesn't like something that just says mileage on it?
Dude, I got that hat right over here next to me. My wife's been wearing it though, not me. So I haven't been running enough, I guess.
Yeah, you got to earn that mileage hat.
Yeah, what's the hat. I put a story out. I was unboxing that hat. So how many miles a week do you need to run to wear that hat?
I'm not going to get... Yeah, I'm not going to gatekeep, but I think it depends on your profession. If you're like a weekend warrior hobby jogger and you're putting in 10 miles a day, you can wear the mileage hat.
Okay. I was going to say 100, but that's fair. 70 is good.
I'm going to stick with 100.
That's 2 versus 3 right there.
All right. Not bad. Well, we had a crazy, crazy week in the marathon world. Not only did we have, Boston Marathon, which was wild. We kind of recapped that one last episode, but then followed up by none other than the London Marathon with a banger headlining field that had 3 guys go under the world record. The women's world record was set. 2 guys broke the 2-hour barrier. What are we thinking seeing those results?
You want me to go first, or do you want to take it streaks? All right. Here's what I'm thinking. Not the most surprising result of the weekend, and we will talk, I'm sure, about the most surprising result.
Really?
I think, JT, I want to pull back the archives, but didn't we predict that someone would break 2 this year?
We need to go back and find this, but I
think I was on that episode. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was on one when we were making hot takes kind of for this year, and I think one of you said that, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's crazy at all that someone broke 2 hours, and I don't think it's crazy that it happened in London, and I don't think it's crazy that Sebastian Sawe was the guy to do it, and I don't think it's crazy that Yomif also did it, even though it was his debut. I thought Yomif had the possibility of winning this race. I also thought he could blow up and have a Cheptegei debut where it kind of like goes backwards brutally, but Yomif is like one of the most talented runners to ever live.
Incredible range.
Yeah, he's got great range. He's a freak. He's awesome. I think I'm a pretty decent fan, and I do think with all these records, we first need to start with the really positives and just be like, wow, that was cool, and acknowledge that it was inevitable and that it was unsurprising. I think in the sense that when London was going to have good weather. And they had that field, the big 3, I would say. Amos Kipruto and Tamirat Tola, sorry, but I think that this was a clear big 3, and we're not surprised at which 3 went 1, 2, 3. And on last week's episode, Jacob, I basically was like, I'm not a big fan of Caplimo for obvious reasons. But after
Yeah.
Caplimo gets third and these two guys beat him, I do think I want to do at least the honorable thing of mentioning the potential that these aren't fully believable results. I don't want to leave with that because I do want to believe that it's real, and I'd say 80 to 90% of me does. But I started hearing some rumors that Sawe's coach used to work for Rosa, and
Yeah.
that was
He was with Jep too and stuff, and yeah, he got fired basically. I think it was 2015 or 2016 for
Dude, I
working
was
with
gonna say his
dope
name was
athletes.
familiar, the Italian coach. So that's what it's from. It's from Rita Jeptu.
yeah, and
Yeah.
that's then you start to be like, wait, if I'm gonna be mean to Rosa athletes, and this guy used to work for Rosa, and now all of a sudden his athletes are the best in the world, it makes me super conflicted because I loved what Sawe did before Berlin with his I'm gonna prove I'm clean, I'm gonna get tested every 3 days, my entire build, and all this, and
My thing
then
is
yeah,
my
go
thing is
ahead.
with the testing though is I don't think the test I don't know. I personally don't get drug tested that often. So I don't really know how exactly it works. But I mean, you look
Same.
at Lance Armstrong, you look at these other people that they got tested all the time. They never tested positive. So
Yeah.
I'm sure if you're volunteering
Yes,
to be tested every three
but
days, you know how to dodge it, or you're have
see,
some
I
concoction they
disagree.
can't find, or whatever it is.
This is where I disagree. I think drug testing has come a long way. I believe drug testing catches drug cheats. I think it would be really hard to cheat while being consistently drug tested. I think the people that are likely the most the ones that I think are cheating are the ones that are racing very infrequently, maybe under the radar, pop off out of nowhere. I would say I feel better about Sawe because he's kind of been in the spotlight for a while, and I feel like the system would have gotten him before this if he was being deliberate. So I'm going to say all this to say I do believe in him, but I am skeptical, because of his coach's affiliation with Rita Jeptu and uh, Rosa, and then I just said I love Yomif and I believe in Yomif, but also Yomif was coached by Alberto Salazar, who had a really clouded history. And with time, as it's passed, I've kind of I feel less certain about my feelings about Alberto Salazar and about anyone who's worked with him. I would say, 5, 6 years ago, I would have been like, anyone with Salazar, poo poo their results. But as time's gone on, I kind of feel a little less convicted in that belief. So I will say this. All three guys, I believe, are some of the most talented runners to ever live. Caplimo, Kajelcha, and Sawe. And I do believe it's possible that they did this without performance enhancing drugs. But I want to just say I would be 0% surprised if we found out later in their careers or at some point that something went wrong. And I think we have to, if we're going to be critical of Ruth Chepngetich when she got the record, or I remember feeling skeptical about Kelvin when he got his world record. I feel like you almost have to always squint and look hard at any new world record because of the fact that we know doping has happened. So it's hard to imagine that clean people are going to be the greatest to ever live. But I don't want to live in that world. So I'm going to almost be intentionally naive and say, I want to believe, but I have to acknowledge that there's a chance I'm going to be disappointed.
What do you guys think allows guys to get to this level? Because I think a lot of guys train at a similar level to these guys. I know there's people out there that train 140 to 160-mile weeks, but do you think it's just there's a certain level of talent there? Is it that they're training at a training camp situation 24/7? Because we had Zuhair on after Boston, and he was yeah, I think he said he was running 115, 120 max, maybe going into Boston. And I think Daniel Scotty was well, would you ever get up to 140? And he was like, dude, I live in the US. I'm not at training camp all the time. I have a son. I would love to get my mileage higher, but that's kind of the happy medium of not I don't want to be at a training camp all the time and away from my family. But these guys pretty much live a training camp lifestyle. I mean, Kipchoge, like,
Yeah,
lived at a
Kipchoge would
training
leave his
camp.
family to go train for his whole block, even though they would be
Yeah,
like in the town over, but he would be in a camp setting. Uh, but dude, I don't really know how much I believe that matters. Maybe it
yeah,
does. I've never, but I don't think I would run faster if you put me in like a controlled environment and told me like all I can care about is running. I don't think that would yield greater results. Maybe the Kenyans are built different, but
yeah,
I do think it's more of a talent thing. Like you watch Sawe run and it gives very similar vibes to watching Kipchoge run. It just looks so good.
yeah,
Like in motion, it's so beautiful. And Kajelcha doesn't necessarily have the same like efficiency of movement, but he does have like you can tell his power output and his stride is just like so good and efficient that it's like I don't know. I each of those three when I watch them run, it does look like the best thing I've ever seen. So it's possible. It's possible they're just like freak talents. And as someone who's broken 60 minutes, I now think sub 2 is not that crazy because I've done it once. Like I've done half of it and I know I'm not the most talented guy to ever live. I think I'm pretty talented, but I believe there's far higher levels of talent.
Yeah, I think the thing with Kajelcha that I look at too is like it wasn't that long ago I watched him run sub 350 at BU indoors, to break the indoor mile world record and, stuff he's done on the track at 5K and 10K. Like it just kind of makes sense that even though this is his debut, like it makes sense for him to be that good at the marathon. But I think what is maybe most surprising uh, is that he didn't really fall off until the last 3 minutes of the race, right? He made it all the way to
yeah.
41K and talked about like, yeah, I kind of hit the wall at 41K. Like that's not normal to have happen. So like I think it's yeah. You saw what Salwe did in Berlin, how he got so close, even with it being a crazy hot weather day, and then now you get like perfect conditions. It kind of just makes sense that he was able to do it. And I feel like people now, even if you look back, I can't remember what this was from. It was something to do with CJ Alperson, where he was talking about like, yeah, my half is not that great, but now like I can almost basically sustain my half marathon pace for the
Yeah.
full marathon, like not that far off of it. And that's basically what these guys are able to do now, just at a faster level, right? I mean, 433, 434 per mile average
Yeah.
is what they can do for a half, and then they can just basically carry it on out to 41K for Kajelcha and 42 for Salwe, which is crazy. Like maybe do we need to make the marathon a 50K, stretch it out another 5 miles, and that way we get maybe that'll make Scott Fauble happy.
Yeah,
People
true.
will
Scott
people will
Bobble had
blow up
some.
more in that last if we make it a 30-mile race.
Dude, Roy called out Scott Bobble too on Sidious Mag, bro. A little bit. Loved that. I'm so here for that.
I talked to Scott personally about my calling him out, and he was like, "I think you're fine." He's like, "That I mean, I agree with." He's like, "I agree with the points you made. I think they're valid." He's like, "It just he couldn't help but feel still like there was something that has changed in marathoning that maybe he still believes that it's less compelling because of all the changes we've seen and with all the fast times and the less blowing up and blow ups don't look the same as they once did. So I think he feels convicted in his belief, but I think he understands what my counterpoint was to his point.
You
Uh,
guys are both sub 210 guys. I'm curious, like when you see a result like this, does this? I mean, 206, 209. Like you guys are, top tiny percent in the marathon right in the world. Does this like demoralize you guys at all? Seeing this time, like just for I guess your own selves, or does it motivate you to like get faster?
I don't think it demoralizes me. I think maybe the race in Toledo demoralized me a little bit more than these guys breaking two, to be totally honest with you. But uh, yeah, I mean that's something I actually want to get into. We have some listener questions here we're going to get into at the end of this episode. But one of the listener questions I think actually ties in really well here is: does the London Marathon results legitimize how fast Boston was? Because I feel like last week, right after Boston, everyone was like, fluke day, crazy tailwind. It was insane. Like, will never happen again. And then we turn around and see London, and it's even faster. Like, does that legitimize the performances at Boston and how deep Boston was?
I would say yes.
Yes, yeah, I agree.
Like, if the
Yeah,
races were flip flopped and London was first and then Boston happened, people would probably be like, oh, like, it's just another fast marathon.
I think I said it. I think I said it on our post Boston thoughts, but I was like, dude, nobody ran a time that I don't think they could run in Valencia. Like if we're
Yeah.
controlling for perfect conditions and a flat fast course, nobody ran so fast at Boston that I'm like, that's not possible to duplicate on a different course in a normal day. I really don't think that at all, especially because I was in the race and I ran 2:06 and I was like, I thought I was in better shape than that. So I kind of feel like, look, like it wasn't like it was a free ride. I didn't just get this absolute like easy coast to the finish line. You still had to work really hard to run a good marathon on that day. And I think looking at Vincent Mari's result from Toledo from Glass City, maybe we just have the wrong idea of what fast actually is, and we're just finally breaking through the mental like grasps we had on old times that were legit, and we're just seeing like kind of a renaissance second wave of super boom and trackflation or whatever you want to call it. I just think that yeah, people just keep one upping each other, and we're still trying to figure out what normal is, and we may get to 5 years from now and it'll level out and we'll stop being surprised by all this stuff and it'll just be really regular, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think speaking of trackflation, like, it makes a lot of sense. I feel like the marathon is just it's a longer race, so, like, the time jumps are bigger, but I bet if you look someone's gonna have to do a study on this, I guess, but I bet if you look at the world level at 1,500, 5K, 10K, half marathon, and marathon, like, times are just getting faster by probably pretty similar percentages. And I followed the high school running scene and college running scene pretty closely too. And like, yeah, the times that I was an All American with in college wouldn't even qualify you for the NCAA meet anymore. And it's like same thing at the high school level. You know, running 4:18, you used to be able to walk onto your local state school, and now they're like, yeah, good luck trying to find a roster spot anywhere at any level. So yeah, I think like track times in this, you know, from the mile all the way on are just getting faster. But we see these big barriers getting broken. You know, like 4 minutes was already broken. So like it's not a new barrier to see someone go from, you know, 355 to 352, but it is to see someone go from 203 to 159.
Yeah. What was your guys' most surprising result on the men's side in Boston in terms of time? Because for me, when I saw Charles Hicks run 2:04, that was honestly my most mind blowing result of the day. Granted, he ran well in New York, but like that was the only time I looked at and I was like, man, I'm honestly surprised you ran that fast. Everyone else, I agree with Rory. It was like, okay, if everyone here lined up at Valencia, I could see them running that time perfectly fine. So yeah, but Charles Hicks, I was really surprised by. Very
Yeah, we said
impressive.
that on last week's episode. We both said that was our most surprising race of the day, but not because Hicks isn't that good. We just didn't expect it from him. You know, he ran 209.59 at New York, but if you look at his like skill set that he had on the track and, you know, being NCAA champ and stuff, like it's not crazy to see him get there. I think we aren't used to seeing people go from college to the marathon, which kind of leads me to the next thing I want to talk about is, yeah, are we at an age now where people are going at 24, 25 years old straight to the marathon, and how is that going to change things?
Yeah, I
I would
mean,
add on the Charles Hicks note, like his 10-mile debut at Cherry Blossom last year was mental. And it's hard to know what to do with a 10-mile time and how does this translate to the marathon. And then I think he got me off his scent like of how good he could be with kind of like his debut was good but not like groundbreaking break like, great, and then he ran Atlanta, and I think he was 4th in
Yeah.
Atlanta, and so
yeah.
I was kinda like, "Oh, yeah, he's in good shape, but nothing crazy." So I'd love to I didn't listen to his Citius Mag interview, and I haven't talked to the guy, I don't really have a relationship with him, but I'd love to hear how he thinks he was able to basically run the pace he ran in Atlanta for a full marathon. I know Atlanta's hard, but that was the craziest part is that he actually raced in his build, and his race was, like, good, not great, but then his marathon was great.
Mhm. Do you guys should get him on the pod. We've asked him on Life in Stride, no response yet. So maybe he'll come on out and back and break it down for you guys.
There we go.
I'd listen to that one.
We'll have to reach out to him at some point.
Yeah, reach
We
out
don't
to
really
him.
have anybody lined up that we want to come on recently. Need to
Dude,
get locked
y-
back in with that.
you guys have had like such a good, you guys got a lot of connections. You've had so many good guests. I'm not gonna lie, just because I'm a total fanboy. The one I was most in awe of. You've had Connor Mance at Stone, dude. Phil Sussman. That was like the one I was like, that's so sick. And I know he's not like the cream of the crop by any means, but it was like I'm a big fan of him. So that was a great guest. Great episode.
Well, let's use that as a segue into comparing Boston and London because Phil was in London and ran 2:08. I think he would be the first to say that he's probably a little disappointed in a 2:08 at London. And then I looked at like top 20 at London, top 20 at Boston. I look at the names. I look at the top heavy, like big hitters, like we mentioned. I look at Boston's top heavy, big hitters. And I think our take of, and I don't know if we shared this on the pod or not, JT, but like our take of Boston has better depth, London has better top heavy guys. I think
Mhm.
that kind of is true now in retrospect too. I think 20th at Boston would have been a couple spots higher at London, but I don't know if Alphonse Simbu or Benson Kipruto are on the podium. They're not, I'm going to say they're not on the podium at London, right? Like they're
No,
probably fighting with Tola for fifth or somewhere in between Tola and Kipruto for fourth, fifth, and then like John Korir into this equation, which we can talk about as well. We can spend a little bit of time there. I finished I finished seeing the results from London and absorbing it all and being like, man, I really wish John Korir was in that race just so we could answer the question of who's currently the best in the world. But I don't know if it would have answered it because I just think there's two types of marathons in the world. There's marathons with pacers and there's marathons without pacers.
Yeah, I mean, I think that goes. It'd be the same on the women's side. Like if you'd inserted Sharon into that race, right? Like we don't really know how that would play out just because like Sharon hasn't run on the fast course yet, and like some of those other women haven't really done it on a New York or Boston course yet. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and
that's what
add
we're
Sifan Hassan if she didn't get hurt, and then you
yeah.
have, like, the full
Yep.
picture.
It,
So,
we have the Olympics, the Olympic marathon, basically.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that's the thing about, like, we won't know until the Olympics because as much as everybody would love to get their popcorn out and watch John Career mix it up with Sawe and Kajelcha, the chances of that happening in the fall this year or the spring next year are so slim because these world marathon majors are bidding against each other for top talent, and some end up striking one and some end up striking the other because it's a financial race, really. Like they would have to, like, there's no way Boston's not going to fight to get John Career back to defend his back-to-back title. And there's no way London is going to let Sawe go anywhere else because he is the world record holder. So we're going to keep having this problem because Sawe's probably going to be in Berlin because he's won it. And Career's likely. I actually think Career's kind of a wild card for his fall marathon because Chicago went poorly for him last year. He might actually like not want to go back.
Yeah, I mean he was fast. I think that maybe the problem with Career is that he is so good that he's not used to having to like race someone head to head late in the race, which I think is kind of what we saw in Chicago, right? Is Kip Limo was right with him, and he kind of just like yeah, he dropped out, kind of like bitched out of it, and then but then he's obviously fine because he turns around at Valencia and runs that
Runs
crazy fast
2:01.
marathon. So like it didn't seem like it was a fitness issue. And then we see him come to Boston. It's like all right, when he's ready to go, he was just gone solo from there. You know.
Yeah, and I will add, I have some context because John Career and I share the same agent, and I've had some conversations
Huh.
about him. And apparently, John Career did not follow his coach's desired race plan in Chicago and learned a valuable lesson of like when to hold him, when to fold him. And he apparently pushed a little too hard little too early and then freaked out. Yeah, I think that that's just like learning again. He probably wanted the world record on that day so bad that he kind of got carried away, and I can relate because I wanted something special in Boston and got carried away and paid for it, right? I just wasn't going to drop out because I'm too prideful for that, and I didn't have, you know, a clear fallback that I was going to pull the plug and recoup like he did for Valencia, because I think Valencia ended up being like a perfect win-win for him coming back and winning that race.
I saw a video John Career like celebrating when Sawe won sub two. He was like jumping up and down, like cheering for him while
He was
watching it.
going nuts, man. He was going
And
nuts.
it's kind of funny because I don't know if that's just like a Kenyan pride thing or what, but I feel like a lot of other marathoners when they see a result, they kind of just write it in their notebook and they're like, all right, like taking notes, because they want to beat that time. But and I'm sure he does, but it was kind of cool seeing that. But it kind of reminds me too, like before London, Sawe and Kiplimo were doing like the face off thing. and they were just like smiling at each other. And I was like, man, I need a little more fire from the top East Africans. Like I need a little pre-race buildup, But
They're
it's fine.
by and large like too nice of people. Like
They're
I'll
nice.
say
Yeah.
John is incredibly like the nicest, friendliest. He was like, hey, he handed me a whole bag of coffee as we were on the same Uber to the airport after Boston, and he like couldn't fit this bag of coffee into his he has that coffee company that raises money for Transcend Academy that they own in Kenya, and he's like, oh, here, like, and he just gave me this bag of coffee. Super nice guy, and
Yeah.
I think they're genuinely like happy and excited for each other too.
yeah, and they kind of see it
Yeah.
as like they are such like Sawe even said like someone else is going to run faster than this. Like that was his comment on the Sidious tidbit that he got, and I think he believes that. I don't think he's just saying that to be like political or anything. And Elliot Kipchoge, I always used to like think Elliot Kipchoge was a bit of like someone was feeding him lines, like no human is limited. I think that might just be how these guys all think, and maybe there's something to that. Maybe we could all take a page out of that, because I feel like us Westerners, I'll just group it into like Europeans, North Americans, whatever it may be, get so competitive that it's like a we look at like someone else's gain as maybe our own loss. And I try not to be that way. I try to be like a little bit more like introspective about everything, but I do think it's like hard when you see so many people run fast and you're like it's hard to celebrate your own, because you're like, dang, like even if I ran 2:06:04 at Boston, like look at how many people ran faster than me today.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it was interesting. Yesterday I made a video and I actually got some stuff wrong, but I thought you guys would find it curious. I took the average of like the top 3 times for each men's country and like did an average and like ranked the top 5 countries and actually got 4 and 5 wrong. So it was Kenya had like a 201 average, obviously top. Ethiopia and then Uganda was third, even though Cheptegei had a bad day, which I don't know if you guys want to talk about at London. And then my 4 or 5 was Team USA and then Great Britain. But apparently I was wrong. I think USA would still be fourth or fifth, but Israel has a 205 average in their top 3. And I believe Italy did as well. So, which I didn't really realize. So shout out to Israel and Italy. But yeah, so
Well, and where
I
does
guess,
Japan fit in this? Because I know they've got depth, but they might not have the top end to help
yeah,
bring
they
it
were,
down. If you control for 5 only, it might hurt, because I
I,
think Japan wins the argument when it goes down to 10.
yeah, and I just did 2026 results. So the top Japanese result this year is Suguru Osako from Tokyo here in 206. So yeah, their average was 206 something. So they were like 7th or 8th. So no one's run really fast to like help them out. Where like US had like Zuhair. Obviously that was helpful. So yeah,
Yeah,
and
Zuhair and
Charles Hicks
Charles.
204. So
Yeah.
yeah, but
I I
interesting list.
mean, yeah, I think we should talk a little bit about Cheptegei and the non-headliners results from London, because I do think it's good to give, because if we only focus on the top of the world, there's some compelling storylines there, but we kind of miss a lot of the cool pieces here and a lot of the opportunities to talk about people that are doing incredible things in their own context. And Cheptegei seems to be really struggling with the marathon, and I don't really understand it, but I talked to Mohamed here in Flagstaff on an easy run once, and he told me his opinion on Cheptegei is that Cheptegei is an anaerobic machine. And I'm like, I've never even
Mm.
heard of someone who is running like the 10K world record, 5K world record. He's actually not an aerobic monster. He's an anaerobic machine. So apparently, according to Mohamed, the skill set Cheptegei has is very different. He compared it to Mo Farah, how Mo Farah was really, really good at 5K, 10K, but kind of underwhelming in the marathon. And he's like, some guys just, they're in these long distance events, but they're all power. They're all anaerobic capability. They have enough aerobic capacity to be in the race, but then when the race becomes a kicker's race, they're just on another level because of their anaerobic capabilities. And I don't truly understand the physiology of that. And I'm sure there's some flaws in that logic, but I do think it helps explain that to some extent.
Mm. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, that's an interesting. I've never heard that term like anaerobic monster. Like you think of that. I don't know.
It
I
makes me
think of
think
like a
like 800-meter specialist.
yeah. I was gonna say I think of like a Josh Hoey or something when I think of
Yeah.
that. But yeah, I don't know. That's interesting. But I mean, it makes sense. Like you see someone like him. Like I'm blanking on the Bekele. Like he was obviously the record holder before 5K, 10K, and he translated ran really well at the marathon, even into a late age. So it's like kind of weird seeing Cheptegei run like 2:06 in a race with like all the top dogs. Kind of disappointing. But Let's Run begged the question: does he get back on the track for LA 28 and like shoot for the 10K on the track? Because I think he could probably still win or like be in a medal contention spot where like right now it doesn't seem like he's going to be contending for a medal in the marathon. So does he get back on the track and just
I
accept,
I
you know,
think
that's
he
his
sh
fate?
I think he should get away from paced races. He's done Valencia, he's done, London, and
Yeah.
it's like, dude, go to New York or Boston where you can use your skill set and you can get lucky and the race can be a little bit more touch and go, and maybe that's where he can compete because he's run really good half marathons and 25Ks. He ran a 25K in, like, India and, like, dominated the race, ran super fast. So
Yep.
uh he's got enough like of an engine to run really good in the half marathon and even like a half marathon plus. I just think maybe like when it's a just purely time trial-esque race, maybe it just doesn't engage him in the same way. I would love to see New York get him, but who knows?
Yeah.
I
I
want
mean, he
to
was a good cross country runner too. So
I
go ahead,
also want to
Jacob.
give a shout out to the Puma guys there because yeah, in Boston we saw Fiona was a late scratch, and then Alex Mayer DNF'd, but then the Puma guys kind of really turned it around. It seems like in London with Peter Lynch getting the Irish national record in 2:06. Who else? Jack Rowe in his debut ran 2:07, and
Not
Paddy
not
Deaver
his debut,
2:06.
not his debut. It was his 3rd attempt, 2nd finish.
Oh,
But,
okay.
Okay.
First
Yeah.
but
notable,
yeah,
first big one,
Deaver
I
ran
guess.
well. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It was kinda do you think it was kind of like, funny that Peter Lynch, like the Irishman, beat all the top British guys in this race? I thought that was kinda we were joking with him, we had him on the pod before the race, and, I was like, "Is there kind of a rivalry there?" And he was like, "Nah." And I was like, "Well, let's start one." And, sure enough, he, like, barely beats Muhammad by, like, 6 seconds, but, it's kinda funny, top Irish guy beats the British guy at their home race, so shout out to him.
Yeah,
Yeah, they have a
I wonder if he gets treated, like, well because he's Irish or because I feel like I get treated pretty well as a Canadian in US races, and I wonder if that
Yeah.
same extension of, like, rolling out the red carpet for an Irishman to a British race, I would assume that he is gonna get more favor than, say, a North American that wants to go run London. So, maybe there's something there.
Yeah, I would agree with that. What'd you guys make of, Phil Sessman's result? Worried about him or no?
I wouldn't say worried, I would just say, um yeah, it seems like he's run really consistent in that 207, 208 range for a couple years now, and whenever I see that out of people, I always think, they're on the precipice, they're close. All it really takes is, like, a special build where things click in and a special day on race day where things click in. I think he could run 206 and be right there with, like, Peter and Patrick Deaver and those guys, but,
Yeah.
yeah, he's just gotta put the pieces together.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
my only thing with Phil, when we talked to him about his training is, like, he kinda nixed a lot of the long runs, and I feel like in the marathon, that's just something you can't get away with. Obviously, he ran a good half, and I think he did enough to qualify himself for the world champs, in the half, which I know was also a big goal of his, so it's just kinda hard to, have your cake and eat it too, so maybe that
Yeah, and
played somewhat into the result.
to second that, I felt like coming off Boston, that was my only, like, second guessing of my training was like, "Man, maybe I should have done a couple more big quality long runs to give myself a little extra juice over the last 10K," because that's really where I started to come unraveled, and I would say Phil probably lost a minute in his last 10K, I probably lost a minute in my last 10K, so maybe there's something there with, like, we think we don't need the long runs as much as we age and as we get more experienced, but that's still the long run is king and don't get away from it. The marathon that's the most marathon specific work you can do, and I kinda got I think I got in really awesome half shape and maybe just slightly underdeveloped my marathon ceiling this build.
Huh.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's
Good
we talk
review.
a lot about the running the half marathon and a marathon build, and I think it's a important thing to do, and it can be, like, a useful piece of information, but it just kinda goes to show it's not the end all be all indicator for your marathon, I think. Hey, thanks to Cure Hydration for sponsoring this episode of the Out and Back podcast. I've been down in Cure Hydration after Boston. I got a nasty sinus infection. Uh, yeah, did not feel good for several days. And the one thing that kind of brought me out of it was, I think, really pumping myself full with fluids, and I was mixing those electrolytes in there, make sure I was stayed topped up on everything. If you want real hydration, you've got to try Cure. It's clinically proven to hydrate as effectively as an IV drip. And alongside their hydration mix, if you need that extra pick-me-up, make sure you check out their energy mix to get 100 milligrams of pure, clean caffeine. It sits on your stomach really well, a lot better than an espresso or a cup of coffee. Personally, I really like the lime and the lemonade flavors, but all of them are good. And it doesn't taste too sweet or artificial. It really helps you refuel between those tough workouts, whether you're trying to get ready for a hot session or you just came in from one and need to get ready for the rest of your day. I'm a guy who struggles to drink enough water throughout the day, and Cure makes that incredibly easy. Staying hydrated isn't just about drinking more water. It's about your body actually using it. That's exactly what Cure does, and it is the reason why I trust Cure Hydration for all my hydration needs. Clean ingredients, real science, and it actually tastes good. Use code OUTANDBACK for 20% off at curehydration.com, or just go find it on Amazon. Real ingredients, real hydration.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, we got to
All right,
transition to Vincent.
Let's get to Ohio.
Oh.
Yeah, this is it's
Dude,
coming.
I have to give a shout out to Aaron Bienenfield, man. Great
Oh, yeah.
debut at dude, yeah, 208, right?
Mind
So
blowing.
shout out to Aaron, man. What a run.
Yeah,
Big time. One of the guys we train with in Flag, Rory's teammate.
Yeah, my teammate, my training partner. I feel like this is one of the other more surprising results, and not because he isn't talented enough, because he absolutely is a great talent. He's run 27:30 something for the 10K, 61 minutes, like a handful of times in the half. But he went out kind of fast, and I was like, oh, if you would have asked me, like, what's the worst thing that could happen to Aaron, is like he goes out too fast and blows up. And he went out too fast and held on really well for a first timer to run 208:47. And he talk about long runs. The guy's longest run of his life before that marathon was 22 miles. And he did it one time. And he ran like 200-mile weeks all build, a lot of 90s, but 2 100s. And
Wow, dude.
yeah, he kind of defied my brain of like what I think should work for marathon training. And we have the same coach, and I trust John Green, but like I was sitting there from the side and I was like, man, I feel like he's not doing enough to get ready for this race. It's almost like he's not respecting the marathon enough. And then he proved me wrong, and I'm super stoked. I hope he comes back and we can get ready for the same marathon together in the next 6 to 12 months.
Dude, Johannes Machman told me that that was his most swaggy runner was Aaron. So what do you guys think about that?
Aaron is a swaggy dude.
He does
He's
care
got-
a lot about appearances. I will give him that.
He's got his ears pierced for sure. So yeah,
Yeah,
so
and he'll rock a speed suit. He'll rock the arm sleeves. He'll rock one arm sleeve sometimes, and he gets like he's really into his style. So very European in that sense. But I would say I wouldn't put him number one on my list, but he could get an honorable mention maybe.
yeah, Sako's still in the power rankings number one for sure, bro.
Yeah, him and Petros, who had a rough day in London, but I think Amanal
He did.
Petros has a lot of aura and swag to him.
He does indeed. But yeah, we can transition. Sorry.
Let's get to
German tangent.
Midwest. Let's get to the Midwest special here. The Toledo Marathon in Ohio. Vincent, anybody know how to say the last name?
Mauri?
Maori. Yeah.
Yeah, 205. What the hell? I think that's what I just like. I've been in a road race before at the Indy half marathon where the bike took me the wrong way, and I kind of assumed it was a similar thing. Like, hey, there's nobody around, just you and some random dude on a bike, and you accidentally, cut off a mile loop or something. Yeah, nobody saw this coming, right?
No. But I will say nobody saw it coming. It didn't make any sense. It's crazy. It's still I still have a really hard time wrapping my head around it. But when I deep dove into his training, I really did like his approach to the marathon in a lot of ways. Like he just had like a lot of high-end aerobic work, a really good high quality long runs, and a ton of threshold. And it's like as a guy who's run sub 4, sub 150 and 750 in the 3K, like he's got good speed. And so maybe he just found like this perfect recipe with his natural talent to just extract every bit of it in his debut marathon.
Yeah, it would not even a half marathon on the record. And I'm going to say the same thing that we said about Ethan Schuley. now that you've done it, I really want to see him. Well, I guess Ethan was actually, he was 13th or 14th in that race. So it's not like he didn't face any competition. Now that you've done it, you got to go to Chicago or somewhere and come race everybody and see if you can do it again. I think that's the first thing you gotta do to kind of prove it's like a legit thing. I mean, obviously we saw the Strava file, like crazy negative split. I believe he ran like 104 and then 101.
Yeah, which is
Like he was rolling 440s the whole end of the race, which is crazy. Yeah,
guys.
crazy.
I've done 14 marathons. Do you want to know how many I've negative split?
2.
One. 1 for 14 on negative splits for this guy. And it kind of got me thinking. I was like, maybe I should try a negative split sometime. Maybe
Which
I
one
should.
was it?
CIM 2021. And you know why I did that? Because I was petrified. Because I did CIM because Boston, I blew up and ran 2:23 that same fall. It was the year that Boston was in the fall because of COVID.
Oh, I ran that one.
And
Nice.
I
Yeah.
blew up so bad in that race that I signed up for CIM, which was 8 weeks later, and I said, no matter what, I am going to just get the distance mastered. I'm going to just get through this as even as possible, as controlled as possible. And I ran, I think I was 2:12:52, and I think I still only negative split by like 10 seconds. So to negative split by minutes doesn't even make sense to me.
Yeah, it was a wild result. But I mean, I honestly, same thing. Looking at his training, the first thing I thought of was this kind of looks like Graham Blanks training. Graham
Dude,
Blanks
I
runs
was
a lot of
thinking that.
110 mile weeks. He does everything at 6-minute pace or faster. Like everything is quality. And now it got me thinking, all right, what happens if guys like Blanks and Grant Fisher, like what if they just skipped the track and the year after they graduate from college, they just jumped into a marathon?
I
Like,
would
could this be the norm for a lot more guys coming out of
another
NCAA
comp
now?
another comp I thought of was CJ Albertson because his training makes no sense. It sounds like he didn't even plan when he was going to do hard stuff. He just kind of was like coaching himself, flying by the seat of his pants and trying to just like be like, "Oh yeah, as long as I get the work in, it's fine." And CJ kind of has the same mentality and CJ also runs everything kind of medium to medium hard. So that was my other comp and also ASU grad. So shout out Sun Devils.
I think you went to Notre Dame too, maybe for 5th year or something like that. But
Yeah, he grad transferred to Notre Dame.
yeah, it's crazy. I mean, he's training in like Youngstown, Ohio in 205 shape, just solo ripping it. But one thing, like, my understanding from the Sidious podcast was he definitely has like a bit of an injury history too. So I think like I would definitely say if you're listening to this, like, don't start doing all your easy runs at 6-minute pace just because this guy did and like think it's going to work for you. Because on the other side of things, like John Korir, people love diving through his Strava. Dude runs a 9-minute pace on a lot of his easy runs. So, yeah, I think like a lot of people are going to look at Vince Maui's Strava and be like, I need to run faster in my easy runs. So I would just advise people to be careful with that. But yeah, really impressive run for sure. I'm curious to see like what next steps are for him. Like if he who he signs with, if he moves, because I think he works at a running store in Youngstown, Ohio, which is awesome. What a cool story. So yeah, really crazy result. Curious what the next move is when a guy like this pops off.
So I DM'd him after the race on Strava because that was the only place I went and stalked his Strava and then I DM'd him and I'm gonna just tell you what I DM'd him and then I just said yo, dude, that shit was insane. And he said, thanks, means so much coming from you. And then I told him, come train with me and we can rule the world. And then he said, dude, just got off work. My legs are trashed, And then he asked for my phone number. He said, I'm going to call you. He hasn't called me yet, but I'm excited to hear what he wants to talk to me about because, dude, I just like, even though it worked for him and, conventional wisdom is if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The guy's going to get a pro contract. He doesn't have to work at a running store anymore. He's going to get a big appearance at his next major. He can go pro. He can try it again. I know he's probably scarred from his college days, but I would love to see what this guy could look like in a new setting with like a little bit more. And I still think he should do a lot of the same principles of training he did because that worked, but maybe just environmentally like optimize a few other things a little bit more and see what happens.
I would love for him to come to Flagstaff just so I could see you and him argue about the pace as soon as we start out on an easy run.
I
That's
wouldn't.
one
I would
thing.
not run easy runs with him.
I
I'll
was
tell you
gonna
that.
say there's one thing Rory does not like is if the easy run pace gets a little too quick. We have a
How
couple
fast?
friends. We have a couple
How fast
friends
do you guys
who
go?
it, it's a big range. Depends on like 7:30 to 6:30, but
Uh,
it really just depends on how we feel. We have
yeah.
a friend who's I don't know, probably 6, 7 to 10. I don't know, what's Ian's marathon PR? But
2:16.
he's always fresh to push. He comes to our easy runs, but he won't come around on workout days. And then he just one steps us and gets a lot of comments from us. But we love Ian, but he is guilty of that. I can see this relationship going the same way if he uh yeah gets out there on these easy miles with us.
Yeah.
I
But worth
mean,
a shot.
surely the fatigue factor, like being as high up as you guys are, like running 6 minute pace at Flagstaff is a lot different than in Youngstown, Ohio, too. So I think you would have to slow down for sure
That
a
is
bit.
Yeah, I'm at my parents' house now, and I actually haven't run. I did a 2 mile run after Boston, but I haven't done anything since last Thursday because I got sick. And but yeah, when I'm here at my parents' house, like 6:20s just kind of happen as easy as 7:20s would happen in Flagstaff, to be honest.
Dude, Jacob, I hear Shively, Dixie Highway area is getting gentrified. A lot of hipsters walking around. What do you think about that?
They're welcome, I guess.
No, I was joking. I didn't hear that.
Yeah, okay.
Well, it's all
I
tough
wanted to say
guys
this
still.
guy. I watched I haven't watched the full interview, but I saw the clips they put on Instagram that Chavez did with Vincent here, and he had like deer antlers and a big bass fish on the wall. This dude he looked like he was like in doing the interview from like a wood shop. So maybe he is the real blue collar middle class hero here.
I
Yeah, he
loved his
could be.
background.
Yeah, I thought it was sick.
Yeah, I think like I don't know. I wonder if he knew it was going to be video. I mean, he probably knew it was going to be video podcast, Sidious Mag. Like I'm sure he's seen Sidious clips before. So yeah, I like it, man. I like the choice. He could have chose anywhere, and he chose there. So
He, as much as I respect how mature he was about his training and his philosophy, it by the looks of it on Strava, like he believed in what he was doing and he did it. When Chris was asking him hard hitting questions, I kind of got the vibe that this guy was just really vibing all of his training and all of his stuff. And maybe there's something to that. Maybe you just should just go off vibes all the time and just see how you do. But yeah, he did one workout a week, one workout day a week, and then a long run. So Tuesday double T, Sunday long, and then the rest of the days were like all moderate, like upper end zone 2 easy running, I guess. And then
wow.
he would do strides twice a week, like hard strides, because Pat Henner was one of his college coaches. So he was like big into sprint mechanics and like hills occasionally, it sounded like. But yeah, he really just did not do conventional like Tuesday, Friday, Sunday, or 2 workouts, 1 long run structure. It was like kind of just threshold and long runs with a lot of moderate stuff and some sprints.
All
Huh.
right, so if you're Graham Blanks and Grant Fisher or say I don't know, you're whoever is going to win whatever American is going to be the top American at the 10K and 5K on the track at NCAA's and is coming out of college next month. Are you starting to think like, all right, I have 10 months to get ready for my marathon debut? Are we to that point now? He's like
No,
Mance went to it pretty young, Hicks went to it pretty young. This guy ran 2:05, and he was not even ever in the top 60. He was never an NCAA All American.
I think if you're like Nico Young, who I would use as an example here with Grant Fisher, you're close enough to the top of the track world that the unknown of what becoming a marathoner is too scary to step out of your comfort zone. And these guys are already making good money and on the track and are set up, and they have their structure, their training groups that are built around track season. I just don't think anyone is going to change the way that they go, and the most talented guys tend to stay on the track just because that's the way that this world is. Connor Mance is the exception to the rule, but I think Connor Mance is also a bit of a psychopath, and I think that that's required to want to be a marathoner immediately. You're either under talented or an absolute psycho, and I will watch carefully and see who starts to transition a little bit earlier, because there are definitely guys that could do it really well, but we saw Grant struggle a little bit in that half marathon in New York. To my surprise, JT was his op the whole time, but to my surprise, he didn't do as well as I thought, and I don't see how that would be better in a marathon.
Yeah, so I think they should. I look back at I graduated when I was 23, and I look back from like 23 to 27, and like I got better. I PR'd at every event on the track during those ages. But like I look back now and I'm like, what the hell? I should have just like gone straight to the marathon out of college. Like
which
that would
I
have been
did.
like looking back, that would have been the smartest thing I feel like for me to do. Uh, and like, yeah, I mean, I got to run sub 13:30, but like, what good did that do? I got to break 28 minutes in the 10K, but like, I'm not winning US. Like, if you could come out of college and compete for a US title on the track, like Nico Young, go for it. Because that means you're world class. You have a chance to be in the Olympic final. You have a chance to try to win a medal, chance to win US championships. But if it's clear the first year, first 2 years, if you're not there by the end of college, why? Like, what do you have to lose? Would you rather just go be 15th every year at USA's versus going and trying to be the next guy that runs 205?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I'd much rather, take my shot at the majors. And I don't know. I feel like running major marathons is a lot more fun too from that perspective. Like instead of getting 10th to 15th or like being a semifinalist at the USA finals, whatever. Like, yeah, I'd much rather, take a stab at the major marathons. Like, I mean, you can't tell me like a race like Boston or like Chicago. If you're in the elite field in that race, like, I mean, I don't know. It's really easy to get hooked, right? If you get into that situation. So, yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think if you're kind of a mid packer at USA champs, like, yeah,
'Cause that was
I would
me.
take
Like I was never even in the top 10 at USA's on the track. I was 3-time All-American. I was in the top, I was 6th, 6th, and 7th at my 3 highest NCAA finishes. And yeah, I should have just gone straight to the marathon.
do I want to see Marco Langdon in a marathon. I would love
No,
the pre-race press conference.
not the kind of skill set that's gonna immediately I mean, maybe, but, like, that's
Yeah,
not the
correct. Yeah.
guy. That's not the guy, man. The guy that's gonna be, like, the sick marathon. I do think Graham Blanks was a great call out,
Graham
Jacob,
Blanks.
just because I could see that working. The guy was a lights out in cross. He does a ton of just strength work. He
Oh, if
runs
I'm
all
Graham
his
Blanks, I'm like, all right, how do I make the 2028 marathon team? That's like the first. If I'm him this weekend, that's what I'm calling Gibby, and I'm like, all right, let's do it.
well, he's in Flagstaff right now. Maybe we can pin him down and interrogate him about it and be like,
No,
"Dude,
I mean, I don't need him in the race, but
I'll do it then. I'll do
because
it."
I think he'll be really good at it.
Jacob, you're just adding more names you have to beat in
I know exactly.
at the
I'm
trials,
giving
bro.
everyone else good ideas.
Yeah, dude, don't worry. If I somehow make the trials, I'll trip some people for you and risk the DQ for my boy.
Well, you've already just we'd be able to trace it back to this conversation, and now Jacob's, you know, he's on the hook for it. So
Yeah, fair. We
Yeah,
can
but to
cut
say I
that.
called it, I think if Graham Blanks runs a marathon in the fall of 2026, he has a legitimate shot to make the marathon team in 2028.
I agree with that. I mean, if Charles Hicks is running 204 at Boston, I don't see why Graham Blanks couldn't. So
Yeah, I see them as very similar.
yeah, similar profiles as track athletes. I would say Graham was even better, obviously, and
yeah,
that doesn't hurt. Doesn't hurt to be better at that stuff. So, all right, let's get to some listener questions and wrap it up here with that. And I don't know, like, where do you want to start here, Jacob? What stuff did we not already hit?
All right,
Oh, oh,
I'll have a good
go
one
ahead.
here. How many more, if any, sub 2 hour marathons will we see this year by the end of 2026? Will John Korir or anyone else go after sub 2 in the fall? I don't think it's a matter of will they go after it, but maybe a matter of will they get it. I want to say
Ooh,
yes. I think John Korir is capable. If he can close Boston, the hard second half in 60:03 or whatever, I think John Korir can run 159 at Chicago or Valencia or Berlin, wherever he goes.
dude, I think the most important factor at London to them going sub two was that like
Competition,
Sawe and Kajelcha had someone running with him, like they were running together still late in the race,
competition.
right?
Yep,
Yeah. So
competition.
like if a race comes where like they get decent weather and we get a Kiplimo career combo or a Sawe Kajelcha combo and at least two of those guys in one race, then yeah, I could see it happening 2 or 3 more times again this year. But it's all about having the right combo.
Here's why I say it won't happen is because I think the fall divides top talent more. and especially because there's 3 majors that are kind of pulling people in different directions, and Valencia is also there. I think it ends up just kind of eating into the depth of the competition, and then also like I think the good weather spell is bound to end.
Yeah.
We had really good weather in the fall, really good weather at Boston really last year, great weather at Valencia, good weather at London, good weather at Boston again this year. So yeah, that is the last bad weather race. It was hot last year at London. It was hot last year at Berlin. And I think those
Yeah.
are two that typically go pretty quick. So
I mean, I want
global
to say
warming, I don't know. They
London.
might have to move Berlin at some point. It's gonna like always be 80 degrees there now, I feel like.
Yeah, I think that last year they moved it from for like elections or something, but I think it's back to its normal week this year. So I don't know, TBD. I haven't booked my hotel yet, so waiting for that
Oh yeah,
long-term forecast.
that's your next one.
That long-term forecast.
Yeah, dude, hook me
Gonna
up,
Nice.
get the
Weather
farmer's
Channel.
almanac out for you, Chris, and then we'll decide where if you should go or not.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm not gonna drop, cool 5 Gs on that trip if it's gonna be 80 degrees, you know what I'm saying? So
That's very fair. All right, next question. How much does belief play into these results? And what I think what that means is, so like for me, when I came into this sport, like being a sub 210 guy was a big deal. And like I believed I could be a sub 210 guy, but like I was very locked into like I need to run 500 miles, which I know is 211, but like that's just like that's the way my brain was like totally wired. And now having been in the marathon world, running several of them, now I'm like, I totally believe there's guys who I am better than who are running 207. So like what's stopping me from running 207, 206, 205? And my belief in my mindset, I feel like has totally changed in the last year and a half. Uh, do you think people seeing Mance run this fast, do you think people seeing Sawe break 2 hours, that is kind of opening up a floodgates and now anybody's like, hey, why not? Other people are doing it. Why not me? And it's not so much that their training has changed. It's just they believe it now.
uh,
Yeah, I would say so.
yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I think, to take training to that level and like I feel like you have to take some risks in training to to get to that to certain levels, right? If you're at a certain level, you have to take the next logical step up in training. And I mean, you can be really fit on race day, but you still have to believe in yourself and like take yourself out on a certain pace to hit that next level of time. So yeah, I think belief is a huge part in it for sure.
Yeah, I think it definitely is. Another good listener question here. Do you think we'll see Sawe and Korir go head to head in the next 12 months? I think it's kind of a quick answer. I think no.
No.
The only
Dang.
way is if Career takes a pay cut to go and do it. Like he would have to prioritize the time because I think he's just in this like US marathon major like cycle. I think if it happens, it's this fall, and I think it's at Berlin. So
How much would a major have to shell out to get all four of these guys in the same race? Kiplimo, Sawe, Kajelcha career. How much would they have to give? $1 million?
at least,
I was going to say probably 250 each, I think, as an
Wow.
appearance fee.
Yeah.
and then you're also running the risk of man, what happens if like these races usually have bonuses around like course records, this and that. And it's like you're almost guaranteeing that you're gonna have to pay that too if you get all of them in one race, which they won't though. Like they won't.
Yeah,
What's gonna
it won't
happen
happen.
is Berlin will offer this, and then the agent will take it over to Chicago, and Chicago will be like, well, we need one of these guys, and then they'll go up, and it's similar to other professional sports, and it's going to just end up being a bidding war for each of them, and they're going to end up getting split. But I do think Career versus Sawe could happen, but Career versus Sawe versus Kaplimo versus Kajelcha,
Kajelcha.
no chance. Just two of those guys are going to end up somewhere else. You'll get a 2-2, I would bet. And I always wonder, like, who has the biggest budget? Who's the most motivated to get one of those guys? That's really what matters is like budget for the year and then also like motivation. Because all these race directors, elite athlete coordinators that are in charge of these pro fields, they're all watching these results and they all have the same excitement. So they're all like they all probably picked someone after Sunday and were like, man, we want this guy. Like, I bet you Kajelcha, like I could see Kajelcha going to New York or something for a lot of money and them being like, let's get you your first big win. Let's get you your first big win. And it'll, like, you've already run sub 2. You don't need to worry about that time right now. But then maybe Kajelcha's like, no, I want to run 158. So I'm not doing that.
Yeah, I think this takes me back to I don't know if you remember this, Rory, in the press or the tech meeting before Boston. Mary Kate is up there, and she's like the pro athlete director for the Boston race, and she like kind of looks around at the end of the meeting. She's like, "Should we say it?" And then I think Jack or somebody gave her a thumbs up, and then they're like, "Welcome to the best marathon in the world." I was sitting right next to Tracy and to Sam, who do Chicago and New York, and they all the majors have to go work the other majors. So like all the other
they're like talking with agents and working like the weekend, negotiating future
part
contract.
of it's like part of the world marathon majors is like they have to be involved some way in like the weekend, so that way they're all, I don't know, working together, I guess. And I was like, yeah, it's kind of a ballsy thing to say, like in the room with all the other, you know, pro athlete coordinators, because like now, yes, you know, somebody's going to be cooking up some way to get these athletes. And yeah, I think London kind of proved it. They're not afraid to go top heavy and put on a big show. So maybe it'll be London next year. They'll just do the same field and add in Korir.
Well, and London,
from what I hear from Boston,
I've heard London has the deepest pockets, and I don't know if that's I can't confirm that, but I've heard that their operating budget is pretty strong.
Yeah.
Shout out to the king and queen are giving them some money.
I think is it the Virgin something London Marathon? What are their type or TCS?
Or TCS is all of them, but I think it's like, I think TCS and Abbott are somehow related with all the world marathon majors. But I think you're right. I think it is the Virgin London Marathon.
Something marathon, yeah.
They got those title sponsors and all of the other things that go into the money of marathoning. But yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting.
All right. Yeah. What do you attribute the biggest increase in these times to? Is it more on the shoes? Is it more on the training? Is it more on the fueling? If you had to break it down to those three things while we're seeing people get faster, which one do you think is the most beneficial?
60-20-20. 60% shoes, 20% fueling, 20% training.
Wow. You were ready for that, dude.
I'm going to go. I think it's almost I think the fueling is a big thing. Because I think what we're seeing now, what we talked about earlier, is like people are basically just able to sustain this critical speed longer. And I think that is probably more of a fueling thing than it is the others. I think people are maybe people are training harder now, but I think people have always trained hard.
Yeah, they have. The training hasn't changed.
The shoes, are no doubt, the shoes are better. That is a big chunk of
shoes it. Shoes have to be the biggest part of this.
Yeah.
I'll go maybe 40, and then 20 to training.
I mean, yeah, people have been training like psychos for a really long time, so that's not really new. So yeah, it's the training, or yeah, shoes has to be number one, but then the fuel has to be second for sure.
All right, I'll go. Let's go last question here. We're right at an hour, and then we'll kind of wrap this up cleanly. It took 23 years to go from 205 to the first sub 2. How long until we see sub 155? Another 5-minute jump.
I want to say that we're getting closer to capacity of advancements in technology and shoes and fueling. I think we've unlocked a lot of things in the last 25 years that's allowed it to be a 5-minute jump. I think we'll improve like 2 to 3 minutes in the next 25 years. Maybe like I could see a 157 in 25 years, but I just don't. 5 minutes, that, because what would that even be pace wise? Like 420 miles? 245 Ks, 240 Ks for the whole. I can't wrap my head around it.
Yeah, that'd be pretty close to 27-minute 10K pace for 4 10Ks in a row. Which the top guys in the world are not. They're under 27, but not by that much.
Yeah, I feel like we're getting up to the ceiling of the turnover being the issue then.
Yeah, so it's 243 per K, 423 per mile. For 155 flat. So yeah, I don't see that in my lifetime, probably. I see it in my child's lifetime, maybe, but probably not mine. Yeah.
There was we need to text Brady and ask him about this, because he posted something. There was a book written like in the 80s where they did like these world record projections, and then it had like a terminal, like the max capacity ever number. And I think the max capacity ever number they came up with, I don't know what, I mean, this is like a 40-year-old book, so who knows what they used to come up with this stuff, but I think it said like the marathon world record would be like 156.37 or something like that. So maybe that's actually kind of spot on, because I feel like I could see now a 157, a 158, definitely could see a sub 159 knowing how they closed London. So yeah, maybe there is a terminal number somewhere in the 156 range,
I,
which is
I,
just mind-blowing.
I will say, because of you mentioned how they closed London, I think every world record is a negative split from like 5K to the marathon, or at least it was at one point. So I think closing hard doesn't mean that there's more in the tank necessarily, as much as it means that they actually kind of nailed it.
Yeah, there's not running out of gas, I guess.
Because you bleed out more than you can. Like if you start going backwards, you lose more time. Than the best is to be attacking. Like what Vincent Maury did, but a more extreme case is what he did. But like the way he did it in a sneaky way was a great way to run really, really fast. But I wouldn't recommend a 3-minute difference or 2.5-minute difference between first half, second half. I think that's probably on the extreme end. But I think a minute actually might be perfect.
Yeah,
good point.
Maybe I'll have to try. I'm 0 for 8 in negative splitting a marathon, so maybe in the fall.
I'm telling you, I'm as we're talking about this, I'm getting ready for a marathon in 3.5 weeks at the Ottawa Marathon here in May 24th, and I am hell bent on trying to negative split this race.
We got a lot of comments on the last podcast, Rory, of people wishing you well in Ottawa and hoping you get a big W. So it'd be great for the Out and Back brand if you could bring one home for us.
I'll try. They brought in Shura Katada, who's won a major and been second at London and 2:03:59, and then another guy that ran 2:03:59 and has run 2:04. So I've got two big dogs to compete with. But Shura Katada did run 1:01:20 at Istanbul, which if your Streeg's philosophy doesn't matter because it's the half marathon and a marathon build. But if you're my philosophy, I think it's indicative that he's maybe not the sharpest he's ever been. So we'll see. I think Ottawa will likely take 2:07 or 2:06 to win. So just because the course is somewhat honest, like kind of hilly, and the weather is usually on the warmer side because of the time of year. So
yeah, I just found so yeah, to be fair, he did get 10th place in that race, and it was 1 and 1 hour flat. So that does indicate the shape probably wasn't that good, but he did run 2:03 this year at Seville, which is fairly recent. But he did lose, like, I know this British guy, Ellis Cross, that got 12th, ran 1:02. He's a 2:10 guy. I mean, this was a bad result for him at the half. So, yeah, who knows? Maybe he won't turn up in peak form, but at least we know 100% that Albert Korir is not going to be there. So,
no Albert Korir. Praise the Lord. Justice has been served.
Yeah, shout out. But so maybe Rory will get his day, bro.
And hopefully, JT, you can get over this cough, and Streets, you can get back to work and put in some a speed block here before you get ready for Berlin.
Dude, yeah, goals this summer. Haven't broke 15 in the 5K since college. Have to do that. I've been taping my foot every day too, so trying to get this tape off my foot in the next few weeks, hopefully. And yeah, so those are my big goals.
Sub 15 is the goal this summer. We got a race.
I'd like to go a little faster, like maybe like 14:45 on the track, but yeah, I mean, I'm trying to set up a 5K at Eastern High School, man, and get some pacers and stuff. So see what happens.
When's it going to be? What to get your? I put your first week of training back in. I don't know if you saw that.
No, I didn't.
You got Farlick next week. I did it last night.
Oh God, Farlick. Yeah, I'm cooked. I lose fitness like Jake Barraclough, bro. I lose it fast, but no, I don't know. I think it'll be like kind of around 4th of July probably. So we'll see. Have a kid due June 20, so I definitely need to.
Yeah, I don't think you're gonna run a lifetime best in the 5K on 4th of July.
Maybe I should have it before. Yeah, maybe I should do like mid June or something. But
you should figure out exactly when this baby's gonna be born, or try to get it and then like try to do it like a week before.
Yeah, I don't know. I think yeah, I don't know. Like I hear there's this like thing they do called inducting, and then they kind of pick a date. So I don't know how exactly that works, but maybe they'll give us one of those dates and we'll figure it out, right?
I would say I'm gonna opt out of what I was about to say. Actually, well, I can wrap it up. I'm done saying stuff. I'm gonna get myself in trouble.
Dude, when have you ever worried about getting yourself in trouble on the internet, bro?
I try to say what I want to say and be honest without crossing certain lines, but I do want to dance up against that line for sure.
Yeah, you do a good job of that for sure. Dude, that's why people love you on pods, bro.
Last thing to wrap us up here is all three of us have new YouTube videos out on all three of our personal channels. We'll have them in the show notes recapping Boston weekend. So, yeah, go check those out if you're into running YouTube.
Yeah, I deleted like most of my footage by accident, so I just did a podcast style. So yeah,
There we
hopefully
go.
you guys just good at looking at me. But yeah, I was like, damn, I just deleted about 40 minutes of footage, so it's all good.
Well, maybe it was meant to be. All right, Streaks, thanks for coming on. We love having you. This was another in between reps, in between marathons for us all. And yeah, hopefully happy training around the corner for everyone listening. And if you haven't already run your spring marathon, good luck. If you have, happy recovery. And let's get back to the summer of speed here soon.
Summer of Speed. Here we go.
Summer of speed.